in my 29 years of corrections, I've faced many situations where de-escalation wasn't enough to resolve the situation, and of course, lethal force was way out of the question. And that's where pepper ball comes in, makes the difference. Pepper ball gives you options: standoff distance, area saturation, the ability to resolve situations without actually going hands-on. I've deployed it multiple times, and it works. It creates space, it changes behavior, and it keeps everyone safer. As a pepper ball master instructor, I've seen agencies transform their use of force outcomes by adding this tool to their toolkit. It's not about being soft, it's about being smart and effective. If your agency is looking for a proven less lethal solution that actually works in the real world, reach out to Pepperball, www.pepperball.com, and tell them the Prison Officer Podcast sent you. Hello and welcome back to the Prison Officer Podcast. My name is Mike Cantrell. Today, my guest brings 27 years of government service and a wealth of tactical expertise to today's conversation. As the Corrections Section Chair for the National Tactical Officers Association, he's dedicated his career to training tactical officers from around the world, specializing in crisis management and emergency response. He's also a less lethal chemical agents and flash sound device instructor with NTOA, equipping teams with the skills they need for safe and effective operations in the most challenging environments. Beyond the training room, he serves as the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Agency Liaison at the So-Right Company, where he continues to shape how agencies approach use of force standards, operational safety. His expertise spans the full spectrum of tactical operations, from less lethal applications to the decontamination protocols, always with an eye towards protecting both officers and public in high-stakes situations. Please welcome Robert Sorensen to the Prison Officer Podcast. Hi, Robert.
Thanks. Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. In the Bureau, I knew your name. I got to take a class from you with the NTOA FS, the less lethal class, but I always heard your name because we kind of worked in the same circles with disturbance control and less lethal stuff. And you were always one of those people I was looking up to and getting information from. So I'm really excited to get you on here, number one. And number two, to see you still in the business after retirement, keeping that going.
Absolutely. Same thing. I remember that class at USP Canaan that you guys
Yeah,
came. I think you guys were activating Thompson at the time,
we were.
and had you in that class. So it's a wonderful way to keep plugged in. And when I start talking a little bit about my story, you guys will kind of see how that teaching and that instructing kind of scratched an itch, if you will, of kind of how I wanted my career to go. So.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, that's how I like to start. I always ask, how'd you get into corrections? Because that always fascinates me. None of us came into it the same way. So tell me how you got into corrections and how that path took you into your career.
It's actually wild. So I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania and out in the country. I was a country boy, did a lot of stuff out in the woods, and I was an Eagle. I'm an Eagle Scout. I was a lifeguard at Camp Tuscarora. So I spent a lot of my summers outside and did a lot of those things with the scouting. So always an outdoors kid in sports, all those types of things. So when I graduated high school, I wanted to be a biology teacher. I really loved biology. I loved nature. Loved all that stuff outside.
Cool.
This is right, wild. So
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be a biology teacher. So I went to school for 1 year. I went to East Stroudsburg University, and my mom and dad didn't have a ton of money, and they said, "Hey, I have six siblings in my family. There's six of
Oh,
us, so
wow.
yeah, big family."
Yeah.
And we're all really close, and we all stay in touch, and we're still really close to this day. But money's always an issue, and so I joined the Army. I joined the reserves, Army Reserves, and that was going to be my avenue for me to be able to pay for my own college and go that route.
Sure.
The recruiter convinced me that being a military policeman was a route that needed to go, and so I said, "Yeah, that sounds interesting. So I'll be an MP." I went to Fort McClellan, Alabama, in November of 1996, I believe it was, and graduated in March of 1997. I started during that time when I came back home. One of the guys in my unit, I was at the 28th MP Company out in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and one of the gentlemen out there worked at FCI Loretto.
Okay.
It's pretty close to Johnstown, not too far away. He worked at
Yeah.
Loretto. And he said, "Hey, why don't you put in for the Federal Bureau of Prisons? It pays really well. It's a great avenue for other federal law enforcement." And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll give that a shot. And so I applied to USP Allenwood, and it's right in the middle. Right, well, I should apply for Allenwood. I didn't realize it was a complex.
Right, right.
I got hired in 1997 at USP Allenwood. I was one of JT Holland was the warden, and I was one of the last classes, I guess, before he retired or left. And then I want to say it was Warden Finello was the warden there when I actually started.
Okay.
So started at USP Allenwood, and I'm scratching my head as I remember my first week in there, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to gladiator school. What am I getting myself into, right? Because we all see it on TV, and we all kind of have our own impression of what jail is going to be like or prison life's going to be like. So
Sure.
I'm not going to lie to you, I was a little bit apprehensive and a little bit nervous because I got picked to work at the USP, the max security, probably because of my military background and some of that stuff. But some of my dearest friends and some of the best guys that I've ever worked with, some of the best lieutenants that I've ever learned from were at USP Allenwood at that time. So I started there in 1997, and I decided that I wanted to be a lieutenant. I thought that's the route I want to go. I want to be a lieutenant. So 2005, I applied and I got promoted to FCI Raybrook up in Lake Placid, New York.
That
So
was a
my wife,
change.
that was a big change. So my wife and I packed up our two children. We had two kids at the time, and we moved to Lake Placid, New York. And it's cold up there.
Yeah.
Beautiful country, but it's cold. And so I learned a lot about being a supervisor of what not to do, and kind of some hard lessons learned that way. That's an old school institution,
Yeah.
but it taught me some valuable lessons. And so I where I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania, just north of Scranton, Pennsylvania, USP Canaan was coming online, another maximum security penitentiary. And so I applied to go down there. So in 2007, I was promoted to GS-11 lieutenant at USP Canaan. And so a lot of those lessons that I learned from being a GS-9 junior lieutenant at FCI Raybrook, I brought them to USP Canaan, and I knew how I needed to act a little bit differently as far as a supervisor goes.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm talking about, and a lot of your listeners do, that there's a transition from being an officer to being a supervisor, and understanding that you don't know it all, and
Yeah.
understanding that humility, you need to learn to be humble and take your ego out of it. And so those lessons are going to come to me later on through my time at Canaan. So, um, I started in January of 2007 at USB Canaan, and I went right to that evening watch shift. In November of 2007 was my first major disturbance at USB Canaan. I had a big, huge gym incident, big, huge gym riot that I was the evening watch lieutenant,
Right.
and taught me some valuable lessons. I was scared to death, Mike. I
Sure.
remember standing outside of that door, and I don't know if you've ever seen that video. Um, but I'm more than happy to share. We show it once in a while in our NTOA classes. But I put that out there, and I learned that I didn't know what I didn't know. And never once did I teach my officers about less lethal. Never did we do any kind of contingency training or tabletop exercises from the time I got there to that November.
Right.
And, and so I learned some lessons on that first incident that, hey, I need to start training my guys and gals, and I need to train myself
Mm-hmm.
on how to deal with some of this stuff. So that was a valuable learning lesson for me, a very humbling experience for me. It worked out in our favor, and we did that correctly. But I credit that to the staff that were with me that night. A lot of those senior officers helped walk me through some of that stuff. But I was scared to death, Mike. Scared to death of there was 200 inmates fighting and with weapons and all kinds of stuff. So that happened in November of 2007. I was kind of labeled as the Black Cloud Lieutenant because it seems like anything that bad happens kind of happened on my shift. But that's okay because you learn a lot through those experiences.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Fast forward to, I believe it was 2009, 2010 timeframe. We have another gym disturbance,
Hmm.
and a little bit different this time. Instead of inmates fighting with each other, I get a call on the day watch operations lieutenant, and they say, "Hey Bob, you need, or hey LT, you need to come on down to the gym. I got groups of inmates, kind of grouping up on either side." So I'm like, "This is deja vu all over again. This is
Right.
November." And what was different about this one is we had a brand new captain come in by the name of Michael Brecken, and I'm sure you know Michael Brecken
I
very
do.
well.
Yep. Yep. I
Um,
do.
but I credit Michael Brecken with a lot of the stuff that I learned. Robert Farley was an associate warden at the time. Dear friends of mine to this day. I speak to both of those guys quite often.
Hmm.
And so I learned a lot from them. And uh, I go down to the gym and I see groups of inmates on either side. And so again, we introduce some less lethal stuff and it goes in our favor. And looking back at those incidences, I learned that the mindset, and I've said this before in a couple other podcasts and a lot of my training classes, I talk about less lethal a lot. And we threw sting ball grenades in that gymnasium. And a sting ball is a sting ball. It's going to do the same thing no matter if I'm inside or I'm outside. The less lethal tool is going to be the tool.
Right.
But what changed in the first incident, it took like one sting ball and all the inmates got down on the ground. The second incident that we had, Mike, we threw 8 sting balls in there and they did not get down on the ground. Didn't have the same effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
so yeah, go ahead.
I remember pepper ball when it first came into Leavenworth. The first time the inmates had never heard that pop, 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 pop. I mean, they hit the ground like we were shooting guns at them. And then the second time they realized, oh, I could take a couple of hits before I go down, and they didn't go down as quick. So
Yeah,
they
so
definitely get used to it.
they get used to it, but what I learned changed is the mindset of the inmates, right? In the first incident that I had, the first disturbance or riot, whatever you want to call it, they were mad at each other and they were fighting at each other and they were looking for a reason to stop. And so we were that reason to stop. We were kind of that lifeline to give them an excuse to stop fighting, right? Because some
Yep.
of them aren't committed to doing what they're doing. The second incident, we were doing mass shakedowns because Mike Brecken was coming in as our captain, and
Yep.
we were trying to clean out the institution and doing mass shakedowns on each unit. And this unit particularly did not think that we had the right to take some of the stuff that we were taking, and so they were gonna go against us, and so they were mad at us. So their focus was us, and so that makes a big, huge difference when we start looking at less lethal. When we start talking about tactics, is the
Sure.
mindset of your individual and who they're focused at and how effective these tools are. So having contingency plans, I learned from that. So that was another lesson learned through my career. So
Right.
fast forward to 2012, I was promoted to an emergency preparedness officer. And as an EPO, you well know, you're very familiar with what an EPO is and what they do. But an EPO, and that was probably one of my favorite jobs in the Bureau because I was involved in all the crisis management teams, finding training, creating training exercises for them, buying gear, finding gear, all that fun stuff that we like to do.
Sure.
So as an EPO, I got to do a lot of that stuff. 2013, actually, my first less lethal class was a manufacturer class, and when I got promoted to EPO, I went to an NTOA less lethal class in Ashtabula, Ohio, and it changed my mindset. Manufacturers try to sell you stuff,
Right.
and the NTOA class kind of really taught me why are you doing what you're doing when you're doing it, and that is a big thing for me, is
Right.
understanding that and teaching that. The understanding of the tactics is a more tactics-driven class. The section chair at the time was a gentleman by the name of David Pearson. David Pearson was a lieutenant in Fort Collins, Colorado, and a sergeant, Mark Martinez, came to
Yep.
Canaan. I brought those guys out to Canaan for a less lethal class, and they taught the class. I'm like, wow, this is what I need to do. They said, Bob, you've done this class 2 or 3 times already. Why don't
Right.
you? We're looking for cadre members. Why don't you join our cadre and we'll get you trained up and start teaching. So I started teaching with them in like 2013 with the NTOA as a less lethal instructor, and I've been doing that ever since. I do about 10 classes a year,
Sure.
just myself
Yep.
with Mark and Dave and a couple other two other guys that do it with us. A lot of knowledge I learned from those guys, and I credit those guys with a lot of that knowledge that I kind of gained through the years. 2013 changed my outlook and really humbled me with the death of Eric Williams. In February of 2013, Eric was murdered inside USP Canaan by an inmate, and I was the EPO. And
Hmm.
I had a major mock exercise planned for that morning. I had an exercise planned that morning, and so a lot of the staff, when they were responding, thought that that was what the exercise was.
No.
Unbelievable, right? Like that
Right.
would be something that you would never make that exercise. But that really changed me, and staff safety really became paramount to me, where I needed to train the guys and gals and give them the tools to hopefully change one person's mindset that we do things a little bit safer. And so that really drove me into into kind of where I am today and why I do what I do
Yeah.
with the NTOA. 5 years ago, they asked me to take over the section chair for corrections and start developing classes and representing the NTOA in corrections, because they understood in corrections that it's an untapped area of law enforcement that we kind of get overlooked a lot.
Yep.
And and training is a big thing. And we always say, we hear this before, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of training. And if you're not providing your guys and gals with quality training, then how do you expect them to do things under stress? You're just not going to be able to do it. And
And
so,
quality training that is correction specific. That's what, for years I got thrown in oh, we got an extra slot here in this law enforcement class. You can go there, you can listen to this, but it never fell into the stories or the lessons with what I was doing. So that's great that they're looking specifically to give corrections that training. That's one of the things Command Presence and ILETA have been working on also, is to get in there and give something to corrections specifically. And have people like
absolutely.
you teach it that
Absolutely.
know.
And absolutely, yeah, it's a big thing. And that's, that was one of the hardest things when I started teaching with the NTOA and the less lethal world, is most of those guys are street cops, SWAT cops.
Yep.
And so when I would talk about correction stuff, they wouldn't get it. And so it also made me kind of change my mindset, is, less lethal, whether it be an impact munition, a flashbang, a chemical agent, that's a tool.
Yeah.
And what you got to understand is what tool and tactic fits for the environment that I'm in. And when you look at environment, it could be the weather, it could be a jail cell, it could be a trailer park, it could be a vehicle. It doesn't matter. But once
Right.
you understand what the tools and the tactics are, I can start plugging those things in as concepts into different scenarios, whether it be a corrections based environment. And I will tell you this, that correctional officers are probably, and I've heard this from sheriffs and I've heard this from the SWAT cops, those that have worked corrections first
Right.
really credit their experience, or credit their ability to be able to communicate to those years spent in corrections, because that's one of the things that I think is really strong, is our ability to communicate
Yep.
and to understand what's happening around us, because we're surrounded by that stuff. And if you're not a good communicator, you're going to have some issues. So
Let
that
me
kind
ask
of
you a
frame,
question
yeah,
while we're
absolutely.
talking about all this. One of my biggest challenges was always leading up with less lethal, because I had this breadth of knowledge that I had developed, and I'd went to the classes, and I'd used it, and I wasn't scared of it, and I knew when it came in place, how much safer it made staff. But then I had the associate wardens and the wardens that were absolutely scared of me letting me pull a trigger on something. Then I'd get one that didn't, like Brecken. I'm sure you had no problem whatsoever explaining to him what you needed. But then I had others that had come up through maybe another part of the bureau or another agency, and they were literally scared. And I had to train associate wardens and wardens. How much did you run into that?
Oh, a lot. So what I
Okay.
did is once I understood OODA loop, right? You understand Boyd's loop, where you understand how to orient and the side act, all that, observe, orient, decide, and act.
Right.
It's not only for tactical situations, it's also for administration. And once I understand how to, I don't want to say manipulate, but play politics, what
Sure.
I would do is once a year, I would take all the exec staff out to the range and we would lay out all the less lethal stuff out there and we'd give them a short little class and then we'd let them pull the trigger on a lot of
Yeah.
those things and we let them play with those toys and play with those tools, if you will. And so
Sure.
they had a better understanding of what they were and what they were capable of. So not only training your staff, but it's really important that you train your executives, whether it be your chiefs, whether it be your city managers, whoever it is, they need to understand what those things are capable of and understand that it is a less lethal
Right.
tool. There is still a chance that some, bad things can happen when used incorrectly and not having the correct amount of training. 40 millimeter for the Bureau of Prisons. We had 37 millimeter for the longest time. And so
Hold
when
on. I just lost you. There you are.
sorry, did
Okay.
I freeze up?
40 millimeter for the Bureau of Prisons.
Yeah, so 40 millimeter for the Bureau of Prisons was everybody was dead set against it. We had 37 millimeter for the longest time with those stun rounds.
Right.
And so when I started teaching with the NTOA, I saw 40 millimeter and played with it a lot. And I'm like, man, we need that in the bureau. And so I went to the guys in DC. I said, we need the 40 millimeter. And they're like, why? And I said, well, it's better. It's just better. And they're like, well, yeah, we've had 37 millimeter for so long. We don't need it. We're not going to go that route. Some individuals get promoted some years down the road, and Brad Trait being the correctional services administrator, I credit
Right.
Brad. Brad and I started. He started a little bit after. He started at Schuylkill, and then transferred up to Allenwood, and so we
Sure.
worked a lot of time together. I'm really good friends with Brad, and so
Yep.
Brad being in the position where he was, I said, Brad, we need to go to 40 millimeter. But back to my OODA loop and training the exec staff, I understood now liability is a big thing. And I told them that if I don't know where that less lethal round is going, that beanbag round, if you will, if I pull the trigger on that and I hit an inmate in a part of the body where I don't intend to, the Bureau is going to be liable for lawsuits, and we just don't want that. I said 40 millimeters, point of aim, point of impact. So I brought these individuals out to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I set up targets. This was during a crisis management training. And I set up 40 millimeter and I set up 37 millimeter. And I said, go ahead and pull the trigger on, and I have this videoed. I said, pull the trigger on those four different beanbag rounds and try to hit that target, and not one of
Sure.
those rounds hit.
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, pick up that 40 millimeter, and here's one round that the officer has. It can go from 1.5 meters all the way out to 50 meters, and it was point of aim. And I said that limits your liability. And so I helped with Christopher Bergen, Todd Craig, all those individuals at the right time, at the right place in Washington, D.C. to help transition the Bureau to the 40 millimeter. So
Big improvement. Big improvement.
huge. And it's a really safe, when you use correctly, it's a very, very safe, less lethal tool, launching system to use. A
Absolutely.
lot safer than like a 12 gauge or some of those other tools that we have out there. So that was a big passion of mine, and to go that route. So my last, going back to finishing up my bureau career, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit about what I've been up to after.
Sure.
2020, I decided I wanted to kind of make a change, and I wanted to go down to Washington, D.C. and work in internal affairs. So I became a special agent in internal affairs for my last 3 years, and did some investigations. Prior to that, I was on the FBI task force in Scranton, PA. I was one of the bureau guys that got the opportunity to be on the Safe Streets task force with the FBI, and that allowed us to maybe pick and choose if an inmate had a weapon in a
Right.
jail. It's not really sexy for a U.S. attorney to prosecute, right? And so they don't really spend a lot of time on that. But that might be something near and dear that we need to make a statement, or we need to prosecute a visitor for bringing in drugs. And being able to be on that task force allowed me to start my own cases, go have access to the United States Attorney's Office and say, hey, we really need to look at this, and this is one that we need to prosecute because of A, B, and C. And
Right.
so doing that opened up other doors, and that's why it led me to be wanting to go into internal affairs down in Washington D.C. and kind of looking at that. I don't have any time for dirty staff bringing in stuff that really jeopardizes jeopardizes all staff. The day after Eric Williams was murdered, we lost Lieutenant Oswaldi down in Puerto Rico, and that was because of dirty staff and cell phones and the work that he was doing to stop that. And he
Yes.
was doing wonderful things and got ambushed on the way home. And so I'm very passionate about staff safety. I'm very
Yeah.
passionate about giving staff the tools, and yeah,
I,
that's a
I
big
had this
big thing for
discussion
me.
not too long ago. We were talking because there's a lot. The newspapers are full of contraband being brought in by staff right now across the country. And somebody made the statement that, well, that was just cigarettes or that was just this. And I said, if they'll bring that in, I don't know what they'll bring in. If
I
you'll bring in
I,
cigarettes, you'll bring in a gun. What's the
I
difference
was
to them?
I was on that ESF 13 team that when we went to MCC New York,
Oh,
and we
Lord.
got yeah, I was in the unit when the officers said, "Hey, we were setting up one of those cell sense towers to people walk through. It's like a metal detector." So I was in the unit with one of the regional guys. Tim Frontino actually was the regional EPO. So Tim and I were in that unit, and one of the SORT guys goes, "Hey guys, you need to come up here. We found something in the cell." We go up there and we found a 5-shot 22 long rifle Derringer with I believe there was 4 rounds in it. Never in a million years, Mike, did I ever think that I would see an actual gun inside of a jail, and there it was in front of me, plain as day, and that was brought in from by a staff member.
Yep.
Um, so
Early on in my career at Missouri State Pen, I came in on evening watch, and on day watch, the orderly did the laundry in this laundry room for the SEG unit, and they let him out to do that. He came to lieutenant and said, "You gotta go look behind the dryer." And the lieutenant walked over there, and a guy had brought in a sawed-off shotgun in 4 rounds and hid it and was going to put it out there on an evening watch. My whole entire career, I've wondered, who do you think was going to get shot first? You've got the keys, buddy. But I don't even. I've never had the ability to fathom.
it's hard to wrap your head around for sure. And it's hard to wrap your head around why staff do some of those things that they do anyway. Once you go down that road of getting compromised, it's
And
so
it all starts little bitty stuff.
yeah.
It's little bitty stuff. It grows to, cigarettes. It grows to drugs. It grows to whatever. Once they get you trapped, you'll do anything.
Yeah, the stuff
And
I saw in internal affairs and some of the cases I worked on blew me away.
wow.
Blew me away.
So when did you
So I,
retire?
so I retired in January of 2024. After 27 years I did in the bureau, and
Thank you.
those 3 years in internal affairs I loved them. I loved doing it, but that was enough. That was enough. And so I said, let me run my numbers. Let me see kind of what's going on and see what other avenues I can pursue in the public sector outside of the bureau. And that's kind of where I'm at today here. And
Yeah.
so,
So I know you're working with some companies. Tell me about what you're doing out there. You're still involved in corrections. You're still keeping
yep,
people safe.
yep. I still teach for the NTOA. I got 2 classes coming up here in March that we're on the road doing. One out in Utah and one in Long Island, New York. So I got 2 classes coming up here for less lethal instructor. So I continue to do that. We've established 4 or 5 corrections-based classes that are going to be rolling out this year. We've partnered with Gypstick. It's the Georgia State Public Safety. It's like they're Flexi, if you will. They have a driving
Okay.
range. They have numerous ranges down there. So Gypstick down in Georgia, down in Forsyth, Georgia. That's where we're kind of going to kick things off with the
Right.
NTOA. They have their own jail cells down there, jail. They have a courthouse, so we can start kind of integrating all those types of things. And it's like Flexi, honestly.
All
It's
right.
like Georgia's Flexi. So those are going to be rolling out this year. We're going to also be doing some web-based stuff with crime scene. I got some guys that were wonderful with crime scene processing. That's not
Good.
100% my bag, but there's a need.
Right.
And
Right.
some intelligence. We have some counterterrorism individuals that are going to go ahead and do some classes for us
Good.
to help. Local jails don't get access to that information, and so if we can provide that to them, that's a bonus. So we're doing that. I continue to do that. I got approached by a company called Robo Rounds
Hmm.
back when I first retired. And Robo Rounds created a round that was an anti-drone, anti-robotic centerfire rounds with 9 millimeter to stop robots, which I
Right.
thought was okay. That's kind of odd. Um, but I understand if you look at the news, you see what Tesla's doing with Optimus robots and all this other type stuff going on. And so it's really an anti-electronic round that they were working on. And then they had a 68 caliber um, ball, which is like a pepper ball, paintball,
Sure.
specifically for anti-drone. And I said, now that is something that is a problem for the Bureau. Um, we see all the drone drops with contraband and keeping staff safe. So I said, I think I can help there. They
Right.
also had a round for breaking tempered glass, and it was filled with powdered bismuth at the time, and really heavy round. I tested it out, and I'm like, it's not working. Um, and we talked about looking at spark plugs. And if you look at a spark plug and you crush up that ceramic,
Right.
and you take pieces of that ceramic. I don't know if you've ever seen YouTube videos of that. You take those pieces of ceramic and you throw at tempered glass, it
Right.
just shatters it. And so why can't we do that inside of a ball? And so that's kind of what we looked at doing. And we created a round ball.
Right.
And I went to Safelite Auto Glass and did a lot of testing on that and developed that glass breaker round. Approached Pepperball. We approached Pepperball and the people
Sponsor
of it,
of the Prison Officer Podcast.
which Pepperball is the leader in high pressure air, the best of the best out there. So I knew that we wanted to partner with them. And so they licensed that round from Robo Rounds, and you see that now they're selling it. It's called in the VXR Shatter round.
Yep.
That is that round that we designed, and it's really kind of cool to see some of the stuff that you worked on from infancy to where it is now, and it's a round that the officers need out there on the street. So worked with Robo Rounds for a little while and decided that I needed to kind of transition to do something different. And I was at the national conference in Washington, D.C. this past year, and I came across a booth at the trade show from a company called So Right, based out of
Right.
Nashville, Tennessee. And they make a product called Decon. They make three products that I'll talk about, but the one that really piqued my interest was called Decon. It's a purple top,
Yep.
and it claimed to oxidize fentanyl, xylazine, meth, cocaine, um, uh, drugs, narcotics within 60 seconds. And I'm like, wow, because we know what happened at USP Atwater last year with Officer Fisher, right, in the mailroom,
Right. Right.
overdosed on drugs that were being sent into an inmate, probably fentanyl based, and they credit that line of duty death to him. So another officer had to lose their life because of not having the right tool. So I saw that purple top, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the Bureau of Prisons has to have that. We actually all prisons have to have that. Police officers have to have that on them.
Right. Right.
That's a tool that if you come across a powder or a trace amount that you don't know what it is, I can spray that down, and through the method of process, it oxidizes it and makes it inert. And I'm like,
Inert.
okay, I need to see testing
Right.
because if it says, if I'm going to put my name on this and kind of look at it, I need to see that. Well, they spent over $300,000 on testing with Triclinics Laboratory, DEA accredited labs, M1R1, I think it is, or it's another spectrometry laboratory. They spent a
Right.
lot of money to show that it actually does what it says it does. And so all that is on their website. If you go to sowright.com, you can go under proof. All that testing is there that you can see.
Okay. We'll
And
put their
so,
website in the show notes too, so people can
absolutely.
get there.
Yeah. And so their main ingredient is sodium chlorite. So the name So comes from sodium chlorite.
Okay. Okay.
And their first product is a disinfectant. And I don't know if you can see that, but I actually use it here at the house. I don't know if it'll come in focus. I'm
Right.
out of focus. But anyway, you can go
I'll
to the
throw up a
website.
graphic.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
uh it's their disinfectant, which kills viruses, bacteria within 15 seconds. So no other disinfectant does that as far as jails go. And the main ingredient is sodium chloride. And so one of the gentlemen that was using the disinfectant says, "What does this do on?" It was a sheriff. He goes, "What
Right.
does this do on drugs and narcotics?" And Autumn Ryan, the CEO and founder of the company, says, "I don't know. Let's find out." And so she asked her chief scientist, and the chief scientist says, "Well, man, it'll obliterate it. It's a sodium chloride's an oxidizer. It's
Right.
safe, right? It's non-toxic, it's non-reactive, so you can mix chemicals and do those types of things, and it's safe. It doesn't degrade nylon, doesn't degrade rubber, so it's as safe as water. The EPA puts it as a
Interesting.
category of water. Yes, very interesting. And so it obliterates it. So by the chemist being able to tweak a little bit of the ingredients inside of there, made it more effective on oxidizing the fentanyl. And so that's where they came up with that product.
Right.
In the process, it's a very good degreaser as well. Sodium chloride is a very good degreaser because of the oxidation. And so, being in the less lethal world, they make another product called Defense Cleanse. It's a blue top. It has a blue top to it.
Right.
And when they approached me and said, "Hey, we want you to look at the Defense Cleanse when you get sprayed with OC or CS, any kind of chemical agent, bear spray. It's very effective on that." And me being skeptical, like, okay, here's another manufacturer saying our product takes away, because you know as well as I
We've been
do,
through this before.
we've been through it, right? And none of them work. And what do we always fall back to is baby shampoo. Johnson's baby shampoo has always been. But if I get sprayed with OC, it takes me 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes to kind of be able to function where I can get behind a wheel of a car and drive. So when we do our classes, we have to factor that time in there whenever somebody needs to be sprayed or have an exposure with that. And so there was no good way. So I said, okay, I'll try out your Defense Cleanse and see what happens. And no kidding, that stuff works. When used correctly with their protocol, they have wipes. You wipe off the OC, and
Right.
there's a 3-ounce spray that you spray. Very good degreaser. Your eyes are open in 3 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so,
Because OC tears me up. I've been doing this for
me
years,
too.
but the next day I've got sunglasses on in class.
Oh, so this is, and I'm a firm believer because I've tested it, and actually there's videos of me spraying people with it, spraying people with OC, and then doing the protocol on them. In 10 minutes, Mike, you are be able to be behind a vehicle driving. 2 hours, you wouldn't even know you got sprayed.
Yeah.
I'm a true believer in that, and it's because of the sodium chloride. It's because of the chemistry behind it, and so we're really kind of getting that out there.
I
We
just watched
part,
a video that you guys did during SHOT Show. Had
oh yeah,
Chris Carey from Pepperball,
yep.
Alex, he's out of St. Louis. Tac, forgot the name of that company right off. I'll put it in the notes.
Templar? Is it Templar
Templar.
Tactica?
Yep, yep. I've met him before. And yeah, so I got to watch him get sprayed.
Yeah,
And
and I
yeah, he
sprayed him.
comes, yep, he comes right out of it. So tell me the difference, because here's where I go now, because I work for Pepperball. Pava is not oil based. So does it work on Pava, and why does it work on Pava?
So it still works on Pava because of the ingredients in it. Now, Pava affects your lungs
Uh
a
huh.
lot more, right? You're going to get that effect inside of your lungs. But Pepperball is working with us. That's why Chris was there because it's
Okay.
very effective on Pava. It takes away that burn.
Okay.
It opens up your pores and oxidizes that Pava, oxidizes that.
So it oxidizes the powder that's on your skin, on your,
Yes.
yeah,
Takes away the burn on your skin. Now we all know Pava, that dust is going to get in your lungs,
yeah,
and I'm not going to inhale
no.
It's safe to do that. I wouldn't recommend it,
But even
but
with
you know,
Pava, if once you get out of the cloud, you give it a few good coughs and you'll get rid of that out of your lungs. It's not going to
yes,
last like OC does. But on the skin, as long as it's there, it's going to burn.
yes, yep. So we they have wipes and they have the spray that when worked in conjunction, and either one by themselves are very very effective. But when you do the protocol where you wipe it off first and then spray,
Right.
man, you are good to go. And
Okay.
Chris Carey's a big believer.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
with
He's a sales
Pepperball.
rep in my area here, so yeah.
He's a great guy. He's
Yeah.
very knowledgeable, and you know as well as I do. You being a master instructor for Pepperball know how effective Pepperball is.
Yeah.
So right is that company that does that, and partnered with a couple of those big. We're partnering now with some of the big medical groups, ambulances, um, and getting it out there.
Right.
We have some meetings set with some big big federal agencies. Actually, I know the CEOs in Washington, D.C. today meeting with some three-letter agencies and stuff out there to get this product out there because it's pretty amazing what it does. The fentanyl, um, the defense cleanse, the disinfectant. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool.
Of course, the
That
first
company.
question that comes to mind right now in our society is this going to be for public use, or are we going to keep it within the law enforcement, within the emergency services, that type of stuff?
Great question. So you could definitely go to their website, but there are local distributors. The disinfectant and the defense cleanse are available for anybody to buy. Um, the decon, we are going to keep that to law enforcement because there is a protocol that needs to be done because fentanyl is a dangerous substance. Narcotics are dangerous, and if you're not using or not trained on how to use it or what you could do, you can actually aerosol the fentanyl and inhale it. So there's a process and a training that needs to be done. That's why we have a wipe that we'll place over the powder, and then we'll spray it with the actual canister and make it wet. And we
Keep it
always
from
say
coming up.
keep it
Yeah.
from aerosolizing and doing that. So there's a process when you come across a dangerous substance like fentanyl. But however, we are tweaking that and we're coming out with something called Decon Daily, and that should be hitting the shelves where I can buy it. And the question that you ask is do you decon when you get home? Like think about when you got home from work and you'd wear your boots inside, or you work in a hospital, you wear your boots inside, and your little kids are crawling on the floor. Where they're coming out with a Decon Daily where you can spray yourself down even if you don't know you came in contact with any of that stuff, but it'll make you safe. You can spray your boots, spray your equipment, spray your all that kind of stuff. And so, yes, that is going to be available to the public. Kids going to college, parents concerned about that type of stuff, germs, MRSA, COVID, all that type
Right.
of stuff is that is available to the public.
Cool. That's just, I mean, that's stuff that we didn't even think about 10 years ago that would be there, or that
I
we
didn't even
needed some of
I didn't
it.
even know. Yeah, 100%. I didn't even know we needed it. I didn't know it existed, and until I saw it, and then I reached out to them and said, "How can I help you? Because I need you to help me." Officer safety is huge for me. After Eric died and all those things, and going through that as a staff member, it's it's not good, and I hope nobody has to do that. And so, as a trainer, as an instructor, that scratched that itch of me being a biology teacher. I can teach, but I can also change lives and I can save lives. And I came to realize that if I could change one person, Mike, to do things a little bit safer or better, then we were successful. And I've said that numerous times, and I truly believe that we just one person at a time, and then it spreads. And so right with this product is an avenue for that. And their motto is saving lives. They're out there to save lives, and they're making it affordable to do so, and available to the public. So that's why I love that company. Another company that I've been in with is a company called Helix Defense. Helix Defense makes 40 millimeter round that is an anti-drone.
Okay.
Uh, so it's when you think about anti-drone rounds, you need something, especially when you're over prisons or you're over metropolitan areas. You need something that has zero collateral damage. I can't be throwing up shotgun rounds in the city or over
Sure.
a prison. And so the round that they have it entangles rotors. It's more of an entanglement type
Right.
device. Um, and it is very, very cool where they can either catch that drone and it'll fall safely to the ground with a parachute, or we can tangle the round and fall from there. Kind of got them into some connections that I have with FIFA, and
Okay.
FIFA is looking for counter UAS solutions, and so they're going to be one of the solutions that FIFA's looking at to using.
Yeah.
FAA is always an issue, and we got to watch out for FAA and what authorities we have. But the Bureau of Prisons and some of those other entities with contraband drones needs a solution like this as well. So again, back to saving lives, stopping dirty staff, stopping the contraband, stopping the guns entering the jails, and making our staff safer. And that's my ultimate goal.
Yeah. How far are we from having a drone? I think we already have it. It just hasn't happened. How far are we from having a drone pick up somebody off the yard and carry
Would
them
you?
out.
That's, you know what? I think we're there. Obviously, we haven't seen it. Some of those drones are very large,
Yeah, they're
and the
carrying
rotors on
freight
them.
of some sort.
Absolutely. Yep. So I hope we didn't give anybody any ideas by talking about it, but why not do that? As we've seen helicopters in our careers. We've seen Lewisburg when I was at Lewisburg, right before I started at Lewisburg. There was that whole scheme to have a helicopter come in and
Yeah.
pick up those guys off the yard there. The FBI stopped that. Puerto Rico, I know Puerto Rico State. There was we had an inmate that was picked up off the yard from a helicopter, escaped. So drone would be the next logical solution. But if they're dropping cigarettes and drugs and cell phones,
Guns and
guns,
oh,
how
it's
many guns
crazy.
are in jails that we don't know?
Yeah.
It scares me to think about that, and it's so easy to do that now, especially with the drones.
Yeah. It's we've had Todd Craig on here before also, and as you know, he's big into that.
One of
I
my mentors, Todd's one of my
yeah,
mentors.
yeah, he's a great guy too. Um, but we talked about that is the next thing that we're going to have to deal with in a big way. We don't control our airspaces and aren't allowed to control our airspaces anymore. The FAA does that, and for a prison not to be able to control what's over it, it just opens it up for those drones. So
Yeah,
that's a great.
we're really good at keeping fences and walls and keeping on the ground, keeping people in and keeping people out. We're fairly good at that. But like you said, over top, we have no control over that type of stuff. And that's one of those things where the law has to keep up with the technology, and the technology is moving at such a fast pace that the legislature and all those things, we have the authority to shoot down drones in the DOJ, but I really think until somebody does it and it gets through the court process, people are scared to do that.
Yeah,
But what we're seeing in Ukraine, that's going to be here in the States. Those type
yeah,
of things that they're learning over there, we're seeing it here. The cartels down on the border. I've been talking to Border Patrol guys and BORTAC guys. The cartels are using drones as counterintelligence, and bad things are happening with
sure.
with the use of drones because they're so cheap. So
What's
we
the
need to
distances?
address that.
What's the distances on those 40 millimeter helix rounds?
So they're adjustable, and what makes them kind of neat is the user can adjust them from the 40 millimeter on the fly. So you can go all 150 meters, 100
Oh,
meters,
okay.
30 meters. You can set a time fuse on it. So it's basically anything you want. And they also have the ability, there's companies out there that I'm working with or we're working with that have killer drones, if you will, where
Yep.
they'll mount a quad 40 millimeter launcher on it, and you can put these munitions in there. It will detect around your airspace. So if a drone is coming, it'll know, and this will launch automatically, autonomous, and that drone will go out and it'll actually take down that contraband drone or that dangerous drone. So that technology exists. We have to get it. We have to get it into these prisons' hands because that's where a lot of this contraband, a lot of stuff's happening. So I do see a need for technology there. It exists. We just have to have the right people say yes, we need it.
And the money and the budgets. I mean, prisons are expensive to run to start with because you're taking care of the inmates. You got staff costs, and then when it comes time for this, where do they always lack or slack off on? You've seen it for years. Well, we're not going. We're going to shut down training for 6 months. We're going to, and that type of stuff. So we've got to get people engaged and have them understand how important this is to have this technology. It's not just fun to play with. That this is stuff
Correct.
like you said that saves lives. If somebody drops a gun in there and an inmate uses it, 5 shots from a 22, that could be 5 dead
Yeah.
officers. You know,
It scares me to think about it. It makes a hair on the back of my neck stand up because
yeah,
I know it's there. I know it's there. Working in OIA, I had keys to the kingdom. You can see everything out there and all the stuff that's happened and happening currently, and we're fast forwarding at such a fast pace with technology and the stuff that they're able to do. It's very scary. 3D print guns.
yeah,
It blows your mind if you think about what could happen, and what's going to happen. It's just a matter of time before those things happen. So we have to equip our officers with the tools and the tactics, which goes back to the training. We have to train them accordingly. It's not good enough to just put numbers, have 100% staffing. That's awesome, and we need that. But we have to give them the tools and the training to make good decisions and use those things correctly. And that's where I love what you do, Mike. Teaching leadership, the side of the house that you do is invaluable, and I admire that part of it because we need good leaders, and they don't just magically appear.
They don't, and I tell people that corrections is the breeding ground for great leaders, because just like you talked about your career, who gets the opportunity to make that many tough decisions? If you don't work in corrections, sometimes daily you get to make those tough decisions that grow you as a leader, that grew you as a leader, you know,
It,
and
and I think part of being a leader for me is, when I was young, probably my ego was really big, and
it's all of us.
all of us, right? Especially, being in the law enforcement and thinking that, oh, we're untouchable. Lieutenants, especially, right? We have big egos. But I was really humbled by a lot of things that happened through my career. And I think that only benefits you being a humble and being able to be trained. I learned, I really have the mindset of one of those brand new officers that comes on the job. I can learn something from that person because they have experiences I don't have. My military experience, I never went to war. My time that I served, those 8 years that I did, I was never in an active combat zone because I was too young for Desert Storm, and then I was too old for when we went back. But a lot of the officers we have today have a lot of combat experience, have a lot of different experiences that I don't have. And if I think because of my position I know more than some people, then I'm making some bad mistakes as a leader. And I think that's important, to have your ego in check, be humble, and be trainable. No matter what stage of your life you're at, you need to be those things.
Understand that iron sharpens iron. And
100%.
that's what I tell my classes. I'm here to teach you, but I hope that I leave this class with something I can teach others,
Yeah.
because there's no way I'm smarter than a classroom of 20 people that have been working in corrections. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep, it's 100% true. There was an SIS lieutenant at Raybrook, and I took a beating up there as a fairly young lieutenant. When you have some really old staff that are up there, you probably understand what I'm talking about. They would beat you up and say, "Oh, what do you know? You're a gypsy." That's the first time I ever heard the term "you're a gypsy." You come in for a little bit, think you're going to make changes, but you're going to pack up your caravan and eventually move. I'm still going to be here. That's where that term comes from, and I understand that.
yeah,
And so the SIS lieutenant told me, he goes, Bobby, and he was a homesteader, and Mike Cross was his name. And Mike told me, he goes, the more they whittle you down, think of yourself as a pencil. The more they whittle you down, the sharper you need to get. And
nice.
that's one way of looking at it, is take those lessons, learn from them, and then stay sharp, and then teach other people. And that's truly why I want to be doing what I'm doing. I love the training. I love the technology that's out there. I 100% need to believe in a product. I need to see the proof that it does what it says it does.
Sure.
And that's why I've partnered with some of the companies that I'm working with. And it boils back to staff safety. It boils back to making sure that we have the tools and the technology and the training for them.
I know you mentioned a couple of classes in Georgia. If people want to go see So Right, some of these other products that you're working with, you got anything coming up?
So Right is going to start making their own training, and so I'm going to help them establish training. Um, and so that is an important aspect of it. So that will be starting. If you go to sowright.com, you can start seeing some of their training. The individuals they have are wonderful. They've Charlie Noonan is going to head up the narcotics side of the house. Charlie's a retired DEA agent, so he's very involved in the decon of the
Okay,
fentanyl part of it. Rob Havasice is heading up the canine, because think about canine dogs. We're coming out with a protocol to decontaminate canines if they come in contact with fentanyl, because they're
sure.
putting their nose everywhere and doing those things, and we want to keep the dog safe, and so we have a protocol for them to keep them safe using our decon and all those things. So Rob is heading up that. So these
Nice.
training classes are going to be coming out, and we're going to be hosting them and doing those same type of things. So that is in the process right now of coming and working on.
Sure.
So Wright's working on that. The stuff in Georgia, if you go to NTOA.org, that stuff will eventually start coming up on. They're going to start promoting it as those classes are being finalized and fine tuned and run through the legal department and kind of make sure that we're doing things, the way that we should be doing things,
Yep.
and the PowerPoints kind of comply with all that. So those should be hitting up here pretty quick as well.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, where would you like them to reach out?
So they can email me at Sorensen, Sorensen, at Sorite, Sorite.com. That's an email that they can use, and they can email me. I am available all the time. It's kind of funny you say that. I've had officers on calls, actually on a SWAT call out, street cops call me up and say, "Hey, Bob, on a call out, I have this munition. Is this appropriate for this situation?" And I'm like, "Absolutely," or, "Hey, no, don't throw that inside there. You're going to start a fire," or, "Do this instead." So I'm available 24/7. If you call me, and if I hear the phone, I'll answer it at 2 in the morning. If there's an emergency and somebody needs it and needs help, that's what I'm all about. I'm all about saving lives and helping our fellow officers do the right things. If we know better, we need to do better.
Yep.
And I'm a firm believer in that, Mike.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Bob. I've been meaning to get you on here for a while. It's taken a little bit, but I'm glad we got to talk, and maybe we'll get you back on here. I want to keep up on some of this stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Our careers are intertwined, and I've always admired you, and I admire what you're doing here with the podcast, and I admire what you're doing with Pepperball. So thank you for what you do, and keep doing what you're doing with these podcasts. I think it's important for our career.
I appreciate that also. Hope you have a
Yes,
great
sir.
day, buddy.
You too. Thank you, Mike.